In this presentation, I will be discussing whether or not we need the Electoral College. By providing factual information, I will give a brief history lesson about the Electoral College, and then I will explain why we need it and why we don't, along with who it hurts and who it supports. With the past election firing up so many people because the president did not win the popular vote but still won the presidency. Now, a brief history lesson. The Electoral College is located in Article 2, Section 1 of the U.S. Constitution. It was created in 1787 at the Constitutional Convention. There are a total of 538 total votes. This decision to create the Electoral College was part of the Great Compromise. The Electoral College elects the president and vice president. The number of electors a vote has is based off of 2 senators, and then the number of representatives that the state has, which is based off of the population of the state. According to history.house.gov, most states require that all electoral votes go to the candidate who receives the most votes in that state. After the election, officials certify the popular vote of each state, and the winning slate of electors meet in the Capitol and cast two ballots, one for president and one for vice president. Some states that also follow the popular vote system have been known to have electoral voters vote differently, and this is followed up by a fine to those voters. Now, if the Electoral College comes to a tie in votes, then the voting is done by the state's delegates who cast a vote for one of the top three candidates. Now that you know a few things about the Electoral College and where it came from, here are some reasons why we need the Electoral College. Stated on an article posted by Peter J. Wallison on RealClearPolitics.com, if we had a pure vote system, as many people who are disappointed in 2016 are now proposing, it would not be feasible because of third-party candidates to ensure that any candidate would win a popular majority. In 2016, for example, although Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, she did not receive the majority vote. She received 48% of the majority vote, or the total votes. Third-party candidates took the rest. If we abandoned the Electoral College and adopted a system in which a person could win presidency with only the most votes, then we would be swamped with multiple candidates who have different ideologies. So we would have people that support guns and people who don't support guns. We'd have people who are pro-choice and people who are pro-life. It would be a whole jambalaya of different candidates and people voting for anything, and it would take way, way longer to decide who won the presidency just because of the amount of craziness that would happen. The dispute in one state doesn't sink the whole ship. Nationwide recounts are never necessary. Americans are fortunate that though debate and compromise, the framers of the Constitution created the Electoral College. While it does not work exactly as the founding generation thought it would, but it works better than they probably could ever imagine. It doesn't tip the scales in favor of Democrats or Republican, but instead it serves as the interest to all people, so everybody. Having an electoral college has many benefits, but why do some people still believe that getting rid of it is better for a country? So let's jump right into the other side's argument. There are many reasons why we don't need the electoral college, according to Jack Rokoff of StanfordMagazine.org. First argument, the most obviously, such a system would confirm to dominate the democratic value that has prevailed in American politics ever since the one person, one vote reappointment ruling in the early 1960s. Our votes would count the same wherever they were cast. No other mode of presidential elections would be further or fully consistent with the underlying commitment to the equality of all citizens. Jack Rokoff also states that making a national popular vote system would eliminate the battleground states or the so-called swing states, which are states that constantly change who they're voting for, and basically they go back and forth between Democrat and Republican. They're the states that usually decide who wins the election. Another issue with the Electoral College is that it can fail. There has been one time in history where the Electoral College failed because it tied, which is going back to what we talked about earlier in the history. In 1800, Thomas Jefferson tied with his own running mate, Aaron Burr. This resulted in each state's delegates deciding and voting for who became president. In 1804, the government got rid of this, so they made it impossible for any president to tie with his own running mate. Now, the article also goes on to cover how third parties in presidential elections can take away electoral votes from candidates that should have won the state. This happened in 2000 when Ralph Nader, he was running for the Green Party nominee, and finished third in popular votes with just 2.74% of the nation's votes and 1.6% of Florida's votes, whose votes probably shifted the state from Democrat to Republican. This uh, this went from Al Gore winning the state's votes to George Bush winning the state's votes. And because of the winner takes all, the state tipped towards George Bush, and then it went to the national election in which George Bush became our president. There are many arguments going for the popular vote system. In order to get rid of the Electoral College, it would be a really complicated task. Aaron Blake explains this in the WashingtonPost.com. The Electoral College, after all, is enshrined in our Constitution, which means getting rid of it requires a constitutional amendment. That's a two-thirds vote in both House and Senate and ratification of three-fourths, which is 38 of the 50 states. In conclusion, whether you support the Electoral College or you're against it, it would be pretty hard to get the Constitution to be changed. Our government is very slow with certain things like this, and it would be near impossible. But with all the information I've provided you and the pros and cons of the Electoral College, I do believe at some point we will come to another great compromise.